at 7 p.m., and I'd like to call the regular Board of Trustees meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone here. We haven't been in this our boardroom for 15 months since March of last year, and it's nice to see all the smiling faces here. And I wish it was just for the welcome back, but I know what it's for. So I call to order. I have a short invocation that I've been reading since I started this deal. It's like, Father, may we in this country understand the importance of virtue to the sustaining of our nation and our way of life. Help us be virtuous in our thoughts, our words, and our actions today. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nance?
Here.
McGurran?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Noonan?
Here.
Pike?
Here.
President Wecken?
Here.
Trustee Zeiss?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, item 2, review and approve minutes from the regular board meeting of June 1 and special board meeting of June 22. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Amy. Any discussion, corrections, amendments? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Item 3 is opportunity for residents to make the board aware of topics, issues, opportunity either on or not on today's agenda. And just for clarification, I believe everybody's probably here for this, for the open public hearing on the special assessments. I see numerous envelopes out there carrying that. Yep.
I'm not, I just wanted you to know that, Stan.
Absolutely, sir. Would you please step up to the microphone, state your name and your address?
Thank you. Thank you, thanks for an opportunity just to say a couple things. I've lived in the village of North Hudson for 7+ years.
What's your name
My
in
name
it?
is Dan Schmidt. I live at 756 Summit Lane North. Some of you know me. My wife is Mary McGurran. I've always had an interest in the goings-on of the village of North Hudson since I've lived here and every other place that I've lived in my life. And so I just wanted to say a couple things, given the opportunity to address the board. I really have gotten a lot of positives from the online ability to see meetings and things, so I just encourage you to keep doing that. I realize it's an expense, and I certainly feel like the board has always been good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and so I just wanted to speak out about that because I find it really valuable, and I think there's probably a lot of people that are more aware of things because of those opportunities. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is I've followed the Finance Committee meetings. I really appreciate, again, everything you guys, everybody, does with the board and the village employees and et cetera. I would like it if you could give a little context with the Finance Committee information. I realize that to you, it's super familiar, but when there's, items on there that are of a substantial dollar amount, to me, I'd say $5,000, but, whatever you think, and you might think it's not needed. I would just like a little commentary about it, because I just find it useful, especially if it's something that you might consider unusual. In looking at the exhibits and things, like the expense item with the attorney that I believe is associated with the water and sewer agreement, $24,000. Is that budgeted? I don't know. And I'm doing my best to stay informed of things, and I don't sit here today at all thinking that I know enough. So I just wanted to mention that. And as far as the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, I would also encourage the village to really think about those dollars as something really unique, and perhaps to use those funds. And I understand there's boundaries on what you can use them for, but I'd really like to see you use it for something that would have some notoriety or some special meaning to the people that live in North Hudson, because the whole pandemic thing was a once-in-5-generation event, and I would like to think that there could be something done for the people of North Hudson that would recognize just how crazy of an event that is and why, what those dollars are about. So those are just the things I wanted to say and address to the board. So again, thanks for that opportunity. I didn't get the okay from my wife to even get up here and talk, so this is totally on my own, so. Thank you very much.
Second that.
Thanks, Dan. Much appreciated. We'll look into that, but at this part, we can't really discuss what, because it's not on the agenda, but we appreciate the opportunity and your concerns, and we'll address them down the road. Okay, anyone else not here for the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, which is a public hearing, levying special assessment for street and utility improvements along 6th Street North, State Highway 35 between Lake Malibu Bridge and Summers Landing. And I don't know, I'll have Kevin, I'll have you, as soon as I open the hearing, we'll have you give an overview, and hopefully you'll be able to answer everyone's questions so that we get their concerns. Okay, can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Phil. And all in favor of opening the public hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is open. Kevin, I would hope for you to enlighten us all.
Thank you, Stan. So, I think everybody's aware of what we're looking at doing. As part of the 35 project, the village has a special assessment policy, and this is the preliminary portion of it. There will be a final after everything is completed as part of the project. There'll be another report that's put together with final cost estimates. But this is on a preliminary basis, so this is what we're estimating. Each of the property owners will be assessed for, and I'll just go over this briefly, the report that we put together. Page number 2. So basically, the only thing as part of this project that we're looking at, special assessing, is just for the sewer lateral itself. The village does have a replacement fund, so those particular items, the sewer main, the water main, those are picked up by the village 100% along with the water service replacement. There's no assessments for the property owners themselves. And one of the nice things with this being a DOT project, there will be no special assessments for the asphalt curb. The asphalt replacement and the curb and gutter, they are going to be picked up by the DOT. Typically, those are assessed under a normal street reconstruction project within the village, but with the DOT tying on to this one, those are going to be picked up by those folks. Page number 3 gives you an idea of what anticipating for dollar amounts. So that would include sewer, water, including the water services. So with contingency, you always put a 10% contingency amount in there, just because of unforeseen things that would come up during construction. Change order items is what we refer those to. So total project cost is just under 1.3 million. It's about a mile's worth of pipe replacement as part of the project itself. Page number 4 is a table that shows, based on what the anticipated assessment amounts are, the property owners will have the opportunity to pay those in a annual installment, or you have the option of paying it in full. It's totally up to what the property owner wants to do. If you decide to take advantage of the different yearly installments, there will be a interest that's added onto that. Typically, that's 1.5 times higher than what the village would bond for the project, just so property owners would know that. So page 5 more of a itemized breakdown. We're looking, for the laterals themselves, about 182,000. And as part of the project, we have about 76 new laterals that are going in. When you back that out, comes out to be just under $2,400 per service or per resident. We looked at doing that on a per lot basis and instead of doing a linear footage, just because each service, you have one service for each home. So it just works out easier to use that methodology. And then down below gives you an idea of what I was talking about before with the utility replacement funds, what those dollar amounts that the village, and then, what's being assessed for that 1.3 million. Pages 7 and 8, Schedule C, so that gives you, all the tax parcels that are involved. Pages 9 through 11, or 10, sorry, that's more of an itemized breakdown. What typically we bid these projects out, how much linear footage of pipe, gate valves, hydrants, all of those particular items to come up with those estimated costs. And then pages 11 through 15 is what we call Schedule C. So those are all the individual parcels. You'll notice some of these are zeroed out as zero. And then the other ones are noted as 1 to come up with on the far right-hand side for the $2,400 per service. And then page 16 is the hearing notice that was put in the newspaper. And then the last 2 is the resolution that was adopted by the village board at the last meeting. So,
Jim,
I got a question, Brian, on
please stand up, state your name and address.
James Vico. I live at 404 6th Street North. So, as far as that $2,400 that
yep.
each one is assessed, you're going to be assessed, what's the other assessments that you're going to be, are we assessed for them?
That's the only item that's going to be,
That's the assessment.
yep, that's for the whole project.
Okay, I was looking at probably many more dollars, that's why I was looking at.
Yeah, if we didn't have the DOT funding that's involved, these numbers would be substantially higher, just because of the curb and gutter and the asphalt. Since it's over 20 years, it's typically a 50-50 split. So the village would pick up 50%, and then the property owners would be assessed the remainder. But with this instance, it's just for the sewer lateral. That's all as part of the whole project.
That sounds good.
Can I ask a question?
Name and-
Michelle Porter. I live on 7th Street. I'm not sure, you've got me on a parcel on 6th Street. But I've got 0 services and am I zeroed out? Does that mean I don't have an assessment?
Correct. If you're zeroed out, you wouldn't have an assessment.
I'm not sure why you're showing me on 6th Street, but.
I'd have to look into it a little bit more, which I'm, more than willing to, after the meetings, this particular part, we could take a look at it and see what your particular instance is. But,
Okay.
because sometimes if you're like on a corner lot, you might have, your service might not necessarily be on like 6th Street, it might be on the side street where we're not necessarily.
All right, as long as it's 0 and I don't have one.
Zero's always
I'll see
good.
whatever you
Yep.
want.
Any other, there we go, sir.
Jim Boschutz, 554 6th Street North. $2,400 assessment. for the lateral, which I assume goes to basically my side of the sidewalk, is that correct?
It's basically, yeah, just on the back side of the sidewalk.
So I measured, took my tape measure out tonight as I came in, want to be accurate, but the center point of the street to my side of the sidewalk is exactly 24 feet. Do the math quickly, that's $100 a foot. I'm paying $100 1 foot for some kind of a, I guess, an 8-inch pipe to be put in the earth, is that what I'm paying for?
Basically, your lateral, so the main itself, which is running down the center line of the road.
Yeah, so that's what I measured to.
Yeah, so that's the main, so that's an 8-inch pipe.
Yeah.
So basically, as part of this assessment, it'd be from the main to the right-of-way
Is that a
line.
PVC pipe or?
Yeah, it's a
So
4-inch,
PVC does not cost that kind of money,
but this is installed cost,
okay?
so
To
it's,
dig a foot, it costs $100?
yeah, so it's not necessarily just the pipe itself. You know, there's a connection that they have to put on at the main. It's called a sewer Y.
My next question to you then is, what about Hudson? Is Hudson being charged $2,400 for a hookup also?
Each city or village has a different assessment policy. This is the one that the village has that is adopted, gosh, I don't know how many years ago. I'm not sure what the city is actually looking at assessing
They're
for.
not being assessed any money for laterals.
And maybe they have a different assessment
I find that very
policy.
curious, is what and I hope the other people here will take note of that as well. That the city of Hudson is not being charged for laterals, but we are.
Again, it might have something to do with the assessment policy that the city or village has adopted, and this is what we've used over a number of years, I guess, on projects.
What's that?
We've used that particular policy on a number of projects before,
Sure.
so,
Well, at least the facts are out there, so people can at least determine what they're being charged, $100 per foot, give or take, for a
Yep.
PVC pipe you put in the earth to their lot.
yeah, it, fortunately, you know, just like anything else, and costs, I mean, they have gone up over the last
Yeah, well,
couple of years because of material cost and labor, but,
I don't know if you're related to this, but there's water coming to my house now in some fashion. I don't have a real good idea, but it is not clean water. I can tell you that right now. It's coming out very brown, okay, in my house. Are you associated with that, or is that not appropriate to be bringing up this topic?
that I'm,
We can talk about that afterwards, Jim.
We can talk about that offline? Okay, I'm just, is anybody else getting good, clean water at their house right now? You are? Yeah. Okay, well, it's just me then.
Okay, is that your temporary,
What's it?
temporary water?
You got a garden hose in your front yard?
I don't have a garden hose in my house, but I still got dirty water coming in.
We can talk about this all later, guys.
Very good. Okay, fine.
Wait,
yes.
Hi, my name's Rich Wagner, I live at 210 6th Street North. I'm just curious, I was looking on the map and I saw, like, one of my neighbors is getting the assessment, the other one is not getting the assessment. How is that being?
It would have, yeah, I mean, if we're not replacing the sewer lateral itself, those would be zeroed out. It's only the ones that we're actually replacing. And I'd have to kind of look at your particular situation and, you know, we would have to look at the construction plans.
Okay.
But, yeah, the ones that are zeroed out are not getting lateral replacements, so.
I'm just curious why that would be. I mean, how often do you actually rip up the street where it's so easy to just replace everybody's? Why?
Yeah, anything along the project corridor that has a service coming out of Sixth Street is getting replaced.
Oh, so their service isn't coming off 6th Street then?
They might be coming off of a, you know, like a corner lot scenario where,
He is on the corner, yeah.
yeah, that's probably what the scenario is then.
And just so that I understand, sewer lateral, is that the pipe that takes all water and waste from the house?
Yes,
And there's just one pipe, there isn't a separate one for like sink water and toilet?
no,
It's just one pipe?
yep, and they're typically 4-inch PVC
Okay,
is what we're replacing, so,
thank you.
yeah.
Anyone else have questions for our engineer?
I guess, one, Jeff Latender, 532 6th Street. So,
Do you have a breakdown of costs on some of the materials that went into the project, like the anodes? Protecting the copper wire?
That, we have like a bid tab per se as part of the project. And,
It just seemed like really a lot of overkill if you're the engineering firm. Each address with the number 12 copper wire, probably a $500 anode laying in the ground for each service. We could have looped some of them together or some other way to,
yeah,
is it strictly just to protect the copper wire, the tracer wire?
typically the tracer wire used is for non-metallic pipe. So it's like your PVC.
Correct,
It's just so that we can go in and locate those at a later date.
right.
There's a little tracer wire box that's typically installed right at the property line. And then
Yeah,
there's
the
a,
wire's still coming out of the ground. It just seemed like,
yep,
a big overkill cost-wise. I mean, I did some of that work years ago, and they're pretty expensive. And for just
Yeah.
protecting a tracer wire, it seemed like maybe an overkill, and we could have rolled that money into either the cost of, bringing that down to hook up, or put it in on sidewalks and did some of that stuff instead.
usually that's not a huge cost. Typically a tracer wire box is about $100.
No, I'm talking about the anode itself.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, and we didn't spec out any anodes, I
well,
know.
each address got a 3-foot anode bag in the ground, that seemed
Okay.
overkill to me. But, okay.
Yeah.
One other question, do I see my name again? When will we be made aware of like the payment options and make our choice as to how and when we're gonna pay and?
Unfortunately, with typically what we've seen with the DOT projects, those can take a period of time before we'll actually see the final numbers. It could be a year, year and a half, 2 years.
Before we actually get the bill?
Yeah,
Okay.
because we have to have those in place before we can actually finalize all the numbers. So a lot of it's gonna be driven by the DOT when we actually get a final billing statement from them,
Okay.
final quantities. So we would hope it would be within the next year. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anything else for Kevin?
Go ahead, sir.
Charles Grace here.
At any rate, I've got a question on this,
Could you do your name and address,
on
please?
these assessments.
Name and address, please.
Charles Rice there. At any rate, but it goes all the way down to 35,000. I don't, what does that have to do with this? Is that a possibility?
No, so basically,
So
on,
It is the 24, basically 2,400, and this doesn't really do anything as far as the big numbers?
yeah, so this just gives, as an idea of, depending on your scenario, which we know as part of this project, you're gonna be around that $2,400 mark. So basically, you're gonna have the option to pay that over a 5-year period. So it's about,
I'm just looking at this here, it's going down 20 years, and I just, this is something else that could be, so that really doesn't
Nope.
pertain.
nope, it's,
Okay, and then basically, are they putting copper to the house, new copper, or is it just right out on the street?
so basically right up to the property line, which,
All right,
That's-
because I just, got new hose,
yep,
lines and stuff like that in it, so, okay, so that there is nothing additional
no,
in that way.
yep, it would be up to the property owner if they wanted to kind of take it from that spot and, all the way up to the house,
Okay, so, all right.
so.
Janet Paston, 614 6th Street. I just have a question when it comes to, you're indicating that we wouldn't get the final bill till 2022 or 2023.
Mhm.
At that point, when we get the final billing, if you go on an annual payment is that going to go on property taxes, or is that billed separately?
Typically, that's what it's usually added to your tax bill. And then,
Yes, so if you choose the option to pay over 5 years, it's added on the tax roll, on your bill, and it'll show as an assessment.
And if you do it as one payment, it will still go on the tax roll too?
I believe that you have the option of paying it in full or having it all added on the first tax bill. So I think you have the option of adding on the tax bill or just paying it outright.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? No more questions for Kevin? I guess you're off the hot seat, so,
If you have any specific questions at the end,
Well-
Kevin can kind of help you with that.
what's that?
If you have any specific questions about your lot stuff, that's something Kevin will be,
Yeah.
at the end of this, he'll be able to help you.
You didn't negotiate the deal on with the state as far as,
for the prices,
well, as the gentleman brought up, you know, if Hudson isn't paying anything, so did somebody not negotiate a better deal, is, I guess, what I would
I think
ask.
what he said was Hudson may be handling special assessments differently than us. So they may be taxing their residents more.
It could be, there's so many variables.
Our taxes went down last year, theirs taxes went up.
I'm just, yes.
Yeah, so that's,
Just throwing it out there as
Yeah.
what happened, you know, so.
No, we try our best to, we have to keep, our taxes in check and,
Right.
and
I
this,
appreciate that.
it's, it's, like the Monopoly game, special assessments, cause you own property or whatever, you get that bad card and it, it costs you when they do your streets and stuff, so, this is, the engineering is all done, and Kevin has been very thrifty with what he can do, and there is only so much you can do when you're tied in with the DOT and stuff too, so.
So, go ahead.
Stan, would this be appropriate time for me to make a comment?
Certainly.
Ask a question, actually. So, new on the board, Amy Noonan, correct me if I'm wrong, this same thing would be happening to any other resident when a road is being redone and the timing is such to redo the sewer and water mains. And if anything, the cost on this particular project is less because the DOT is covering it. So I don't know how many years ago it was, for example. I think when I bought my house, I read in my agreement it had been done, I don't remember how many years ago. And that is a pretty standard thing that if you live in a home long enough, you will have to pay for. Unfortunate, but eventually it happens to everyone.
Right, and, but in the village, we usually don't get the DOT money, so that's the one
Exactly.
thing. With Sixth Street, that helps a lot, and we have Wisconsin Street coming up next year.
Yep.
And there's things involved with that one we got a grant through the state and stuff like that, so, which covers that, but I mean, I've been in my house since '84, so, if they start coming around for street or whatever, it's like, okay, cinch it up, we're gonna have to pay it this time, so.
And if I understand correctly, again,
Yep.
I'm new.
No, that's a great
We do try to
question.
write grants, and we do try to piggyback our projects whenever possible,
No, that's a great question.
make them affordable.
One more, Stan. So, and this isn't about the sewer and water, so is this the right time? This is about sidewalks.
Well, I mean, it's part of the project, yeah?
yeah,
Well, okay, so.
sure.
I understand my cost is $2,400 for the sewer. If that's what it is, it's not the end of the world. But we're gonna put all new concrete, the road's concrete, correct?
Yep.
So we're gonna have this nice new stretch of concrete, and all the sidewalks are piecemeal together in North Hudson. It's gonna look terrible. So, the sidewalk is in my house, I have to maintain it, but it's public. I mean, whatever that cost is, and we're talking minimal. I mean, to replace all my sidewalk that you weren't gonna replace is like $700 or $900. So I'm just gonna pay it and have new sidewalk. But I shouldn't have to, that's a public sidewalk. So amongst all the North Hudson residents, we could have just said, okay, it's $75 for everybody to have sidewalks, new sidewalks through the whole city, where the city has sidewalks. I mean, I wouldn't object to paying somebody on Second Street if they had a sidewalk, it has to be replaced in a project like this, well, it's a public sidewalk. So $75 would be a big deal.
So we brought that up in the planning stages. This has
Okay.
been being planned for 5 years. We actually looked at the cost, and first of all, the DOT, if they were to replace those sidewalks, would make them 5 feet instead of the existing 2.5, 3 feet they are. What are they, 3?
I mean, it varies on.
They have to. I mean, they're required if they replace sidewalks to make them 5 feet, so
Sure.
you'd have more to,
Right, it would be a bigger cost, I
Right.
understand that, but
And-
I don't know what the population in North Hudson is.
well, then we looked at the cost of doing that. We even looked at the cost of possibly running it up the east side at one point, you know, from Michelson all the way up to Tom Thumb, or Freedom, or whatever it is.
Depends on how long you've been here.
Sorry. We did look at all those costs, and they were not cheap to do it. To replace the whole sidewalk on the west side would have been expensive, much less doing one down the east side. So those were items that were discussed at Public Works and at board meetings, and we thought the expense was just too
I
high.
work out of town, I don't get a chance to come to many, I'm off for
Okay.
disability, so.
Well, these things, someone mentioned, I think it was you, or somebody mentioned that it's nice to be, the guy earlier, that to be able to see these. These are all online.
Yeah,
You can go up on YouTube and watch them, or on riverchannel.com and watch them. They're always there, so.
And then we did lose a little funding.
We lost funding.
We lost funding for sidewalks. Yeah, they switched their policy a little bit, and it took away from us being able to kind of afford that. So that's something we did check and went through.
We wanted it.
Yeah.
That
We
we
lobbied.
really
A
actually
few of
wanted
us
it.
wanted
Yeah.
well, you go through some of these towns, I'm a truck driver, so you go through these towns that do these projects.
Right.
and They get all brand new streets, and some of the storefronts get up and all new sidewalks. It looks pretty nice, you know, so.
We're getting,
I have a question, Jim Boschus, I have a question for you to say, I'm at 5546 Sixth Street North, and I'm on the, I guess you'd call it the east side of Sixth Street North, okay? East side, west side. For some reason, on the topic of sidewalks, the sidewalk stops at my driveway, okay? And this is a safety concern, safety. This is not aesthetics, this is not how good it looks, this is safety. You have people walking down the sidewalk on the east side of Sixth Street North. They get to my driveway, and then they've gotta climb a hill, I put some rocks down, and they gotta go the rest of the way to Michelson. Because for some ungodly reason, I don't know why, we, the North Hudson City Council or whatever, never completed that sidewalk. They stopped at my driveway. Whereas they continued in the lot that's adjacent to mine, to take it to Michelson. It addresses a safety concern. Safety is my message. People get to the end of my driveway, you know what they do? Kids on bikes especially? They jet out into Sixth Street North where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour if you're lucky, you know, and they're gonna run up in front of a big truck and get plowed over something. And it makes absolutely no sense for you guys not to have that sidewalk continue all the way to Michelson. None. Why do we not, this is not the first time I raised this with you folks. Why do we ignore that point? It makes absolutely no sense, none. You got the trucks out there, they're carving up the side, you know, why isn't that being done?
Yep, we hear you, Jim. Yep, we need to stay focused on our project.
Well-
Come to the next
On the
meeting.
special
Oh,
assessment.
come on, you guys, quit putting it
Jim,
off.
come to the next meeting, do the
I've
proper
been here for 3
steps.
times, and this is the same message I get from you guys consistently, and it's a safety concern. All it's gonna take is for one kid to get plowed over in Sixth Street Road, and you say, oops, that's not a good idea, city council, that's a real bad idea. So finish it, right. My God, this is not rocket science. It's not.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Well, what's gonna be done about it? Let's talk about it another meeting. Come on, bullshit, sorry.
Well, it's, that particular item isn't on the agenda, so we're not allowed to talk to it by ordinance.
When will it be discussed?
You could come to the next meeting, and you can
I-
bring it up.
actually-
We have steps.
Jim.
We have proper steps, and you know that, Jim.
Come to public safety, if you want to address it as a public safety, we can have it on our agenda, we can run through.
When is the public safety? Is it
Second?
Thursday
Thursday,
at 5:30.
Thursday this week,
5:30.
5:30? I'll be here, thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate that, Jim. It's a good topic.
Hey, anyone else? Questions have been answered. If there's no other comments for Kevin, anybody want to address the board itself? Everybody's pretty much
One
done
last
that.
question. So
Sure.
I noticed my sidewalk is, it looks like part of it's going to be replaced. That's not an additional assessment, is it?
No,
Okay,
no.
all right, thank you.
Move to close public hearing?
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. And the engineer's already done his assessment report. With roll call vote.
No, just no.
Is that
No, no roll call needed, just all in favor.
all in favor of closing the public hearing, signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Mary?
I wasn't sure if there was any more comments. I wasn't sure if we reached
I
the end.
didn't see any.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Huh?
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the public hearing is closed at,
I don't think we voted, or did we? Oh, perfect. Wonderful. You're good. Yep.
7:36. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on our return to the Village Hall. I hope, I know it's never, when you get a little boost in the tax, basically taxes, it's never pleasant, but, you know, we thank you for your patience with this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, it's great to see so many people here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You must be bored of tears, Jim. It's comfortable, but,
Item D?
but
Item D there?
Let's go, Stan, yeah.
item
We
B,
move to recommend to approve this report.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kurt. Any discussion?
What exactly are we voting on?
The possible action on the engineer's preliminary assessment report.
No, not the second.
Item D and under number 4.
It's what he included, had breakdown of all those individual residents and the map and everything. That's basically the report we're approving here. Right?
So the resolution that's on page 17?
No, that actually was adopted at the last village
Which-
board meeting.
The assessment report, the
Just the
preliminary
report.
assessment report as a whole,
Yeah.
The big packet.
yes, the
Yep.
whole report.
And it will be updated. This, I don't remember the title of it, but it's gonna be more to the dollar, right? I can't remember the actual term of it.
We're
but-
just approving a preliminary
Right, the
assessment
preliminary,
report.
thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Brian. I couldn't think of the term.
Any further discussion?
Mary, you understand?
What?
I want to make sure she understands, Dawn.
Well, I'm looking at the report, but it's a very large report. Are we just saying that what Kevin put in the
Correct.
report, we agree with?
Being it's a preliminary report, it's all we're voting on. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve the preliminary assessment report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, okay. Item 5, recommended appointment of Kirk Nelson to fill vacant position on the Board of Review. Approval requested. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint Kirk to fill the position on Village Board of Review.
Thank you, Amy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Phil. Is there comments or questions? Hearing none, I thank you, Kirk, for volunteering. All in favor of the appointment of Kirk to the Board of Review, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 6, request for reduction in letter of credit for the Ridges 3rd edition. Approval requested. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the letter of credit reduction.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Comments or questions?
So, Kevin, is this related to, does this include the booster station?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not getting answers back from them, from what I'm hearing, about the booster station?
Yeah, we actually reached out to Derek's last week just for an update on that. Well, their consultant,
Okay.
ACA. supposed to be getting back to us just to see where they're at. We haven't heard anything yet, but
So my question is, should we approve this before we hear back from them?
well, the dollar amount for the booster station is in the 221, 120, so you do have that.
But I'm just nervous that
You're
they're
gonna
not.
use them,
You want to get their attention. is
you
what
wanna
said.
use their little,
I really want to get their attention. I would like to say we will approve this when they get back to us about what the heck's going on with the booster station.
And, yeah, you could put a contingency
They've been
or,
squirrely with us on this booster station for a while.
You can table it if you like.
I moved to table it.
I mean, are they're anticipating this coming? I mean, I'm assuming?
yeah, I would think this week we'll
They're aware of
know.
it? Right?
I'm sorry.
They're aware of this coming, this money back? I mean, because the point is you table it.
No,
You still gotta,
we still have discussion here. We
you still gotta
can't
come
take,
back and do this all over
Well, we're
again.
still discussing my original motion. so
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
I'm a little frustrated with these guys not answering.
he jumped the gun.
Yeah, and I think this week we'll have a update from them on where they're at with the booster station. And we can, discuss that at the next Public Works meeting, which isn't,
I like the contingency.
How about the
more than
contingent?
more than the actual tabling it.
You'd rather do a
I'd rather
contingent?
see contingency to say the fact that they
What
want
do you
to get
guys
this-
think?
This credit back.
How is it hurting the village that, isn't it on them? They can't sell and occupy?
Till the booster station's done?
Right. So how is that hurting us? It's kind of their problem. They're the ones who are gonna be out the money.
There are other issues related to the whole timing of the sewer and water, or the water agreement in general, that affect this. I would like to see that this booster station gets done, especially the way we want it done. And by not hearing from them in a timely manner, it's not the first time we've brought it up. And it just seems like it keeps getting pushed and pushed. So,
More based on timing, Marion project, basically control.
Related to issues in closed session.
Yes,
Okay.
got it.
And so what you're proposing, Tim, is that we make approval of this contingent on what we're waiting to hear from?
update.
Specifically, versus tabling it? I mean, I don't know anything about it, obviously, so someone can explain to me, but that seems more like action moving forward that is still insisting that we have some control.
Right.
Versus if we table it, we're just a month behind. I could be wrong. Please explain if that's the case.
how would you say the contingency to
Well,
satisfy us?
just knowing, a water booster station, there's actually a lot of approval that have to be in place. They have to go through PSC for approval, DNR. Got to get it out for bids. The skid is going to have to be made. That's probably 16, 18 weeks before you'd actually see that out on site. Then you'd have to get it installed. I think realistically, it's going to be end of this year, beginning of next year before that's up and running and functional.
So what were you planning on hearing by this week?
We reached out to ACA, which is the consultant working on the project, just for an update, just to see where things are at. SCH is actually doing the design of it.
Yep.
I think we sent it out last Thursday.
Early last week.
Yeah, so we're anticipating. We did get a response back that he's gonna check with SCH, see where they're at, and then give us an update. I'm expecting this week we would hear something back from them.
That changes everything right there.
So you're saying don't put a contingency on it?
I'm going back to what she says, what Mary says down there, they can't do anything to these lots until they put one in, and it's not gonna be there until another end of the year? What do we have control of here?
I mean, it is, that 221 is, there's dollars allocated still in the letter of credit for the booster station. This is just to release basically what's been installed up there right now. So sewer, water, curb and gutter, looks like it just got paved. That's actually not included in this. So the majority of the public improvements are finished.
Melissa, any comment? All right.
Motion was made.
Was it seconded?
It was.
Okay.
Was, and, can you repeat the motion, please?
Motion to approve the letter of credit reduction number 1 for the Ridges 3rd edition.
Okay, and there's no further discussion?
Kevin, what do you recommend on this?
I think the village is covered. I mean, you still have, dollars sitting there, should something go south. It's almost 250,000. Again, these are all things that have been installed. So I would recommend that you do reduce it down to the 221.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're releasing money, so it's a roll call vote, I believe, Paul? Okay, Mary?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Alrighty then.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Big day for you.
Yeah, thank
Earning your
you.
money tonight. Okay. Item 7 is new business from the board or staff. And then first is, of course, president's comments. And I would just like to, I want to be short on this, that I would like the folks that are watching, I should have kind of brought this up earlier, but we've had people driving into the project or while their guys are working, we're not supposed to have any people accessing their houses or whatever from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m., I believe is the time we allow that. And people have done that where they've come right up on top of I guess it was a forklift or something like that, and when he wasn't paying it, he didn't expect anybody behind him, turned and just about speared the vehicle, which probably wouldn't have been good. So if you've got access from 9 p.m. until 7 a.m., so please stay out of that zone for that time. It's harder for the guys to work. Also, just for the board itself, I've been requested to find somebody to volunteer for the cable board. It meets the 4th Tuesday of the month at 4:30. We're just a representative because we have people on cable, and Brian has other stuff that he would like to do, and it's not fitting his schedule, so if anybody's interested, please let me know. And then finally, for the folks out there, we have, if you go on the website, there's we call it listserv, or where you get notifications if there's, could be power outages today perhaps, or it could be incidents where we've had issues with different things. And, they let us know that we've got the big stakeholders meeting down at the park tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Lakefront for people and want to know where we're at with the construction and everything. So if you can sign, it's free, and you can sign up, and we try to get the information out. That's one of the quickest ways to know what's going on here in the village. So if you do that, that'd be wonderful. Melissa, you got anything?
No, I don't have anything additional.
Nothing from the administrator. Okay. Plan Commission, I don't believe met.
Nope.
Number 9 is Personal Finance Committee recommendations, claims and approval requested. Is there a motion?
Stan, can I move to approve the July 6, 2021 non-recurring claims of $96,284.35?
Thank you, Kirk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor, let's see, that's claims. So, Tim?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B is resolution for bond sale approval requested.
Stan,
A motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2021-11, resolution providing for the issuance, sale, and delivery of $2,030,000 in general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2021A of the Village of North Hudson, Wisconsin, establishing the terms and conditions therefore, directing their execution and delivery, creating a debt service account therefore, and awarding the sale thereof.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Questions, comments? I think we have the folks that negotiated such great terms for us in the audience.
Very good, thank you. Appreciate the sentiment, not going to take credit, so we'll give it where it's due, and it's largely a result of how you manage the village. So, Brian Riley with Ellers, good to see you all in person. I know we've connected through video here recently, but it's nice to hear and see people face to face. So, it was accurate that we did have the sale of the bonds this morning, as was discussed. Fundamentally, what happens is the transaction is put out into the marketplace, and then we physically take in proposals for purchase of those bonds this morning. All right, and then so everybody attaches their pricing, what their fee will be if they're interested in buying. We evaluate them and basically rank order them based upon total interest cost to you, inclusive of the purchaser's proposed fee. All right, so you have a handout in front of you that kind of gives you just a very high-level summary. Don't need to get into the weeds. If you have questions, I am happy to get as technical or detailed as you'd like. So we'll answer at your discretion. So fundamentally, we're financing the Trunk Highway 35 improvements, the village's portion, that is, as well as refinancing 3 issues. And if you recall, as we had talked about, they're not great money savers. They do save a little bit of money, but we're also consolidating debt and getting rid of 3 issues and building new money and refunding into a single issue at this point. All right, and we've then built the issue in a way that accommodates for that, as was talked about. We're not extending the term of the refinance debt, same term, just slightly lower rate, and then just making a little easing the burden a little of administering the village's debt portfolio. So we got 5 bids. I'm on the inside cover here where it says competitive sale results. Best bid or low bidder was Northland Securities out of Minneapolis. I'll walk you through the tabulation here in a moment that will show you what parties you're free to thumb through if you wanted to look at that. They provided a true interest cost of 1.68%. That's when you take all the maturities, blend them together, and you include the purchaser's fee. That is your cost of capital. All right. When you include all of the costs of issuance, we're right around, I think, 1.95% here. We'll look in a moment. So I would equate that to kind of like an APR on a consumer loan, or if you go get a mortgage, what they would quote you is inclusive of all fees and expenses. That's where you priced out at. So the worst proposal was about 1.18%, and given that most of your cost is in interest expense, fundamentally, that's actually quite a wide differential. We'll look at here in a moment. There's a cluster around about 1.72%. But the difference between the best and the worst is about $43,000 in interest expense over the 20-year term of the bonds. So that adds up quite significantly over time. The key to the competitive sale really is not just your general obligation pledge, but also the fact that you carry an A1 rating from Moody's. And again, we talked about the fact that at the top is AAA, then there's the AA category, and there's that gradation 1, 2, 3, and then you fall into the A category and an A1. That's a very strong rating, and we'll talk about the details of the rating here in a moment. Feel free to ask questions at that point in time as well. But that lends itself very strongly to selling bonds competitively with that rating. It opens up a pretty large universe of potential investors. The final issue size was $2,030,000. We were able to reduce slightly in relationship to what the proposed purchase structure was. We had some extra dollars and were able to reduce the size of the issue slightly. You can kind of run down the list there and just see some of some of the details. As I had mentioned, there was some savings attached to the various issues that we refinanced. There was a 2015 issue and 2 2017 notes as well. On a cash flow basis, save about $10,000 in total. So again, that's not a ton of money. Some of those are very short, with 3 or 4 years left on them. And when we like to present value that as well, so based on today, in today's dollars, if you present value back the stream of savings, what does that mean? It's about $12,000, $13,000. So again, as we mentioned before, if they weren't going to save money, we would just pull them out, but they do, so we left them in this case as well. I'll continue on here through the handout, and again, I talked about the
the bid tabulation there, you can see the Northland Securities proposal, again, 1.68%. You can see their proposed coupons and what the return to the investors that bought the bonds were. That's that reoffering yield column. If you or I wanted to go out and buy these bonds, if you wanted the 2022 maturity, you would earn 0.2%. And all the way out to 2041, you would earn 2% over a 20-year term, all right? And then as you're continuing on to the next page, you can see we got pretty good representation across the Midwest with dealers out of both Minnesota, Wisconsin, as well as Chicago, all right? And these are a lot of the players you see that are be interested in this size and type of debt as well. So we really didn't miss anybody, so to speak. You get, somebody that comes in on a particular day just because they have low inventory and they want bonds and they might get aggressive. In this case, the bid from Northland was excellent. You can see that you've got a nice cluster there around about 1.75%, and they bid through that, and that equals real dollars at the end of the day. It's about $10,000 better than the next proposal. Questions? All right, I'll walk you through the rating report here quickly. The village uses Moody's Investor Service as the firm that rates your debt. In fact, I think it was April where you just had an update to the rating. So any rated entity, they typically will monitor you on a 1 to 2 year basis, and so they're going to call again at some point, even if you don't issue debt. It just so happened that they had an inquiry in and provided a kind of an update to the rating in about April, May of this year, and we told them, basically, hey, we're going to be back to you in roughly, June, July, and so we went ahead with that, and they affirmed your A1 rating, which again they just affirmed not that long ago, so nothing has fundamentally changed, and just to kind of give you some high level. Really the driver of the rating is your proximity to the Twin Cities metropolitan area from an economic and job-based perspective. That has a lot of value. Your demographics are very strong, and when I say demographics, I don't just mean, what does your population look like in terms of age profile, those sorts of things. It's more about median incomes, those sorts of metrics in relationship to both state and national levels, and they skew very high for a community of your size. And in fact, when they score you out, you look a lot like a AA credit. It's just that some of your other metrics cap you, and one of those is just size of your community from a tax-based perspective. There's just some limiting factors that won't allow you to get much higher from a rating standpoint. You have a strong fund balance as a percentage of your budget, but in nominal terms, so just in dollar terms, it's not as large as their rating universe. They're very data-driven and statistically oriented, and so some of those levels then cap you from their perspective as far as how high the rating can go. But A1 is a very strong rating for a community of $400 to $500 million in total tax base. So, don't look at that negatively. I would view it as positively. You have, very low, your debt profile is fantastic, right? You don't have a lot of debt. Even with this issue, you're still at the very low end of their spectrum. And in fact, if you look at the scorecard, some of these, from a financial perspective, you score out at AAA. But again, there's some limiting factors that for the way they rate things, that just brings you down a few notches from that perspective. So I think you should feel very good about the things that you can control, and that's finances, and you score very, very high in those places. So from a financial perspective, you're very strong. All right. Some of these things you just can't control, right? You can't control the size of your tax base. You want to promote it, but you're not, in direct control of that. You can't necessarily control your demographic profile, those sorts of things. How, what the diversity of tax base is in terms of your top taxpayers and those things. But you can control your finances, and those are all very, very good, including your debt metrics. I won't go through this page here that shows the final issue size and structure, unless you have questions. But just to kind of give you just a quick and easy way to look at what is the total issue, what is the maturity structure, what are the annual payment requirements, and then where is that money coming from, right? We've allocated some of the debt service to the sewer and the water utility, understanding what those dynamics might be over time. We talked about that at the pre-sale discussion, right? There's also the portion attributable to streets and stormwater. That's the tax levy piece on new money. And then the issues that we refinanced, those are paid 100% from the tax levy as well. So you can just see then at the bottom, this is expanded a little bit. And again, this gets in the weeds to some degree on the sources and uses, but just shows you how much money there is and from sources of funds, and then how much is getting used up in terms of where is it going from the refinancing amount, which is a little over $500,000 and about $1.5 million in new money for projects. All right. And then finally, again, I wanted to keep in here these little bits of savings analysis, and what it's just showing is on an annual basis, what's the comparison between the old and the new, and then what's the total cash flow savings. You can see there are some years where it's negative. They kind of balance each other out. Some of them are positive, some of them have small negatives, and there's a little bit of inefficiency because we have to issue bonds in increments of $5,000 when you access the capital markets. So we can't have a maturity that goes to the penny. It has to be in a $5,000 increment. And so when you have debt that is to the penny, essentially, in terms of its maturity, and then you have to adjust to a $5,000, you can have a little bit of inefficiency. But all of them save money in total. Again, we would have pulled them out if they were going to be a net negative from that perspective. So you can parse through that as you'd like, but just wanted to make sure you could look at those for your own benefit. So I will pause there and address any questions or any comments. Happy to.
Good stuff, good report.
Any other questions for Brian?
I just want to say that I appreciate how thoroughly you explained this to us in a previous meeting, and that we're stepping it along, because it's a lot easier to vote and feel comfortable on something like this when it, you get that information over a period of time and it's explained very clearly. I appreciate that.
One question on timing, so what happens next then? So
this is an important action, right? Once the board takes action, you've essentially entered into what I would call a purchase and sale agreement, essentially a lot like real estate. So you have a binding obligation at that point. The rates and terms are set, so we're locked at this stage if you approve, and then we transition towards closing. So on the day of closing, you will receive the net proceeds, so all the cost of issuance will be paid out. You'll get the net amount into your account. Basically, that same day, you can pay off. We've already requested payoff statements from the lenders for the issues that are being refunded, so we know exactly how much they need, principal and interest. So same day, those checks can be cut, or wires or ACH, however you want to transmit the funds to the banks. They will be redeemed. Those loans will all be redeemed and paid off in full, and you will only be left with the single issue at closing. And then going forward, it's just making payments on an annual basis.
So again, how long take that, Brian, for that?
July 27th is closing.
Thank you, I did see, I want to, yeah, okay.
I could have just said that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I want to confirm that.
July 27th is closing.
They're not seeing the report, that's why I just want to make,
Sure, and you do get what's called a good faith deposit from the purchaser, right? It's very, super rare, less than 1% where an issue doesn't close. You have a deposit from the purchaser, so in the event they don't close, you have liquidated damages, and you would retain those funds.
Okay.
It's not going to happen, though.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Brian?
What do you think, Melissa?
Sure. That's the first thing that is they did it again, and I think that, he gave us credit that we have been fairly good stewards of our money in the village, and that's what helps us a lot. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, we do what we can to help you contemplate the process and everything that needs to go in place, and then structure things for you, but it's like we're showing your home, right? It's not, I didn't build it, I didn't, decorate it. You did what you needed to do, and so we're able to then showcase that as far as the issue goes, and that's what people are most interested in from a credit perspective, because they don't want to own the bonds, they want to buy them and sell them.
Right.
And so it's easy to do that when you have a good credit standing behind the debt.
Thank you. Okay. I guess that's all we got for you. We got to take a roll call vote on something like this, so.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
and
you
thank you
very
for your
much.
kind words. It's a big deal to borrow $2 million, so we do this every day. You don't, and we do want to make sure that you understand exactly what's going on, so thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Mary?
Aye, yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Get her
all.
done. All right, that would bring us to item C, which is establish separate account code for American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. Funds to be received and approved or requested.
Standard recommend move for the village treasurer to establish a separate funding and accounting software for ARPA funds to be received and tracked to ensure accurate accounting, monitoring, and reporting.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Discussion. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Safe trip home.
When are we gonna talk about the plans for the funds? Is that at a different?
Well, it's right,
level?
well, she can, Melissa maybe can comment on it. We talked a little bit about in the finance, committee.
Sorry.
We're talking about ARPA?
Between talking
Yeah.
with them and stuff, so, I'm sorry, when you're talking about the ARPA funds?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first step was kind of create this fund. We did get the first payment last, week on Friday. No, June 25th, I apologize, is when we got the first payment. The second payment will come 12 months later. And there's still a lot of information coming out from the Treasury and questions, so it's just kind of been putting it all together. But as the board can start talking about, we can put that as an item, or and the committees can talk about it, but we have like a public works director, he had some, like sewer, lift station repairs, things like that, it can be used for. The water and sewer, for the Wisconsin Street project, it can be used for that. That's a big one, is the water and sewer. So-
Can you make a list of approved, or
Like ideas?
ideas that, because everybody starts licking their chops and
Yeah, right.
with money out there like
They
that.
do. Yeah.
And, no, I know hey, the table's full of them right
That's
now,
fair.
so don't,
That's fair.
don't even.
Right. And it's just been kind of waiting to get the money, setting up the fund, and then, as we get the information from the treasury, getting ideas put down on paper, and then the board can discuss those, so. That's something we'll probably work on now, this month, for next month.
Within the limitations of when all the final rules and guidance is out on the spending, I wonder if it might be good to have just a meeting with, like a meet and greet with village residents to see kind of what people are thinking, so we can get some additional feedback. Melissa's going, meh.
Well, a lot of residents aren't gonna understand what you can use it for, and they're like, oh, let's improve the park, or let's put a
Let's put in
street
a
in, or
pickleball
let's
court.
do
That's
this.
kind of what our responsibility is
Right.
too. A lot of times I'll talk to like the neighbors and everything, and then we could bring that here. So we're kind of the in-between people for stuff like that.
That's why I was thinking like a listening session within the parameters. I mean, if you educate people about what it can be spent for, they can understand that, most people can understand that, and then we can hear from them. And we can do that individually, or we could do it,
On the website?
yeah, that would be another way.
I also like the idea of having some sort of, I don't know what you call it, but yeah, an opportunity for residents to come in. I think, personally, I'd like to encourage that. And if we have a list of ideas, maybe even already prioritized, and we just, make it clear there's not enough money to do all of this, just get some feedback from people, we might get a more clear picture. I certainly talk to the people around where I live, but I just think it's a good idea to, not to open it up like, okay, we want everyone's ideas, but here's what we're thinking about as the experts, as the professionals, here's kind of our priorities. We already know we're not gonna be able to do all this, and just give people a chance to make some comment. Yes, it
Yeah.
is
And I'm
time
not sure
consuming.
what people may be thinking it can use it on, is pretty
It's limited.
limited. So I don't know what the residents may, the goal is to have something where everybody basically benefits from it. That's why using it for the water sewer for Wisconsin Street, we did not bond for that, because that was one of the, uses, which there still will be money left over. Things like using it for the sewer, the lift station, the auto dialer thing is a good use of it as well. But, yeah, we can give ideas out there, and the board will just have to kind of throw them around. They can talk about them in their committees, but, yeah, I think residents talking to you guys directly, or you talking to residents, might be more beneficial than having people come in with these ideas that don't fit.
So then if we could get a list of approved ideas, if we had enough time to prioritize that and enough time to then get out and talk to people who have questions, or even be able to share that. Here are the guidelines. I don't know, would that go up on the website? How would that work? So people would know, here are the guidelines. I think that they would respect our decisions even more if they know the guidelines and they know that we've put time into analyzing what's needed and,
And the important thing to remember too is you have time. We have until 2024, I believe it is. So this isn't, that's the one thing that they stress. Don't hurry and try and spend it. There's no reason to hurry, like, oh, we got this money, let's hurry and spend it. You can take the time to think about it and you have time to use it.
And part of the reason for having a separate fund set up, like what our motion is here right now.
We have to, there's a
Right.
lot of tracking
Right,
that goes
track.
involved with it, and I have to do reporting back,
Yep.
and, you have to be real careful. They suggest the village use their money for the village, not, giving it down to like a second source.
Right.
Because there's a lot of stipulations, where they're like giving it to a nonprofit or something, there's a lot of stipulations that go with that, and they say, the village can use it. If you do that, there's a lot of other things that go along with it, and if they misuse it, we're on the hook for it, and we have to repay it. So they say there's plenty of reasons why the village can use the money, and there is. I mean, we got a lot of water sewer just with that. We don't have a ton of money like some other municipalities have that we're getting, so, yeah, so we can talk about that more and take the month to.
Yep, research and put it
Yep.
down the line.
Yep, but it's not a race, it's not a rush to do this, so.
Oh, when this first came out, we had lots of ideas and, hey, this would be good and this would be good. And it's like, nope, nope, nope.
Yeah, and as I hear ideas, I try and reach out to, well, like Ellers, they have somebody that's specifically in their office researching these questions, researching options. So I do reach out to him and get ideas, like, hey, do you think this would this work with it or not? And, like some of the sewer questions.
The League of Municipalities has had a lot of good information out there too.
Yep.
And stuff, but, yeah, this one looks, it's really, there is unbelievable amount of restrictions and stuff of what you can use it for. It's like, well, they're gonna be getting money back, I'm thinking. That's almost maybe what their plan was, I don't know.
Right.
Okay, so, we had a motion and a lively discussion, on establishing the secondary, or the separate account. I don't think we voted on it. So, and that's not spending, so all in favor of establishing the separate account, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 10, finally, Public Works, Chair update, Brian.
Stan, Public Works did meet, and we have one thing to bring forward. We are making a motion to approve the purchase of an under tailgate salt spreader from Chris Steele Truck Equipment with cost not to exceed $7,300. The funding is from Public Works Capital Equipment account.
Thank you, Brian.
Second.
Thank you, Phil. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, that's a spending issue. Tim?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Okay, so, item 11, Public Safety Committee recommendations. Chair update, Tim?
Stan, we did meet. Do we have a couple things to bring to the table? First of all, a move to approve the closure of 400 blocks of 7th Street North and at noon on Friday, August 20th, 2021, until 8 a.m. on Monday, August 23rd, 2021. I move to approve the following no parking zones from Thursday, August 19th, 2021, at 3 p.m. to Monday, August 23rd, 2021, at 8 a.m. North side of Monroe Street North from 6th Street North Street to 11th Street North. North side of St. Croix Street North from 6th Street to North to 11th Street North. South side of St. Croix Street North from 6th Street North to 7th Street North. North side of Pine Street North from 7th Street North to 11th Street North. East side of 7th Street North from Pine Street North to St. Croix Street North, except for emergency vehicles or authorized vehicles with plate cards issued by the police department.
Thank you. Tim, is there a second?
Second and second.
We got some comments here for the chief here, so we're going to some more updates on some of this, so that's why we had the motion.
Yeah, just just for the information of the board and those that are watching. Typically, in the past, the street closure for 7th Street North for Pepperfest and a lot of the no parking has really been put into place by the police department or by order of the police department. And it's been an annual event, obviously. this year with the construction project going on and really the unknowns that we have with when things are going to be happening and popping up, Melissa and I did talk about the fact that we felt it more appropriate that the board actually have a formal motion to close it, when to close it. I go to the weekly meetings for the construction, and I can tell you that working with Tim for Pepperfest and trying to make some organizational decisions for them, the parade routes, all those types of things, I can go on one Monday and they can tell me, nope, there will never be two segments in North Hudson being worked on at the same time. And the next Monday, come back and have them say, well, now we think that would be beneficial for us to do. And then the next Monday, come back and say, well, what we told you last week, what might be happening in mid-July, we don't know if it's even going to happen this year. So because of all the fluctuation and all of the unknowns, I really wanted the board to be able to say, we informed the police department to close the street, and in this particular motion, it's at noon on that Friday, so that if there is a change and all of a sudden all of the traffic is flowing across the bridge, maybe onto South Street and coming north on 7th Street, and that's the only way you can access the west side of the village, that for that time period, we know that the board asked for that closure to take place, and now people are going to have to, instead of coming through here, they might have to go around on Lemon Street and come back around, those types of things. So just wanted to make you aware of that all of those things are very much fluctuating, literally week to week. And so wanted to make sure that you had that information. There's nothing that's changed as far as the no parking zones. That's going to be the same as it's been. It's just, again, more in a formal setting and a formal motion that the board can move forward on. Questions?
So if I'm understanding, then the board taking this action will help to ensure that there is an alternate route if the construction changes?
No more along the lines of, I'm not the one that made the decision. Literally. The 7 of you made the decision as a board, as an elected officials, with information that I provided to you, and not somebody coming to me and say, why did this street close at noon? And I say, well, because I wanted to close it at noon. But actually, the board made a decision that at noon on that Friday, they would close it. Now, we could open it up earlier than 8 a.m. on Monday. I mean, if Pepperfest has it, the ability to get a lot of the items off the street or maybe clear things out, we could open it earlier. But I think that knowing that it takes some time to set up and that oftentimes they have many vehicles and deliveries and whatnot on that Friday afternoon, we want to make sure that if we are going to close it, then again, I guess for lack of a better word, we could then help plan some alternate routes instead of having people utilize this and try to get some information out there. If the Monday before Pepperfest, they come to us and say, hey, by the way, we're going to be closing this segment down or this portion of 6th Street down that wasn't closed before, we can try to get that information out as soon as possible and know that we have this closure that will take place. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, we good?
And one comment to add to that, the Pepperfest is not going as late on Sunday as it normally would be, with the intentions to try to get things as much as we can off the street come Monday morning, so.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're good for the approval for the parking closures, and that's not spending, so all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. You're off the hook, Chief.
Yep.
Yeah, now I'll kick up another one.
Yep, I'll take this one. I motion to close the Village Hall at 12 o'clock noon, Friday, August 2021, due to the street closure for Pepperfest.
Thank you, Kirk. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Amy.
We just wanted to put out there that, so people can see and plan to know that Friday they'll be done at 12, so everything can get forward and people will know if they want to come here, they have to adjust their timing.
Thank you, Kirk.
So we'll be posting that someplace?
Yeah, I'll post on the website.
It'll be on the website,
On
yeah.
the door, yeah. Yeah, I'll try and get the word out as much as possible.
Send out a listserv.
Yeah, I can put it on.
Okay, all in favor of closing the Village Hall as suggested, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, let's see, public welfare, Kirk,
We did not meet.
how about the park board?
So we have their requested hours. So we didn't have enough people to finish or have the meeting last week, or Tuesday, whatever day it was. Yeah, sorry. So just to give an update, we're actually moving of the park to behind the village hall to try to start earlier so the sun won't be in our way. So I don't know technically if we need an approval, but we just wanted to update you that the first one will be July 17th, and we can approve it if we want to, but we're technically not in a park anymore. We're on Pepperfest
property.
So we just wanted to make sure we updated kind of that move, because we're still calling it moving the park, but it's not in a park right now.
Okay. Paul, any guidance or?
No, I think if it makes sense for them.
Yeah, our goal is to start earlier so we can get more younger people.
Okay with it if it's their property.
Yep.
Okay, that's all good. Okay, so do we need an approval? Since it's not technically on park?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that would bring us to item 14, which is, the board may convene into closed session pursuant to deliberate and negotiate the purchase of public properties, investing in or public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons required closed session with respect to water and sewer ad hoc committee. I myself, because we didn't get we just got the big document or whatever kind of today and there was a lot to digest by the time we got it. I don't really see that, a need to go into this right now. I mean, it's, unless if somebody feels that we have, issues that they want to address in a closed session situation, but, I don't know what we can accomplish on,
Well, my proposal, if we go into closed session, just to update the rest of the board as far as our current activities at this point, and then we can come right back out of it. That's my
Okay,
only suggestion.
if
Just
that's-
if Mary and Amy have any questions since up to this point, that's my, to keep them up to speed.
okay?
So,
Then I need a motion to go into closed session.
Stan, I motion to go into closed session.
Thank you, Kirk. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. Jim,
Thank you, Jim.
thanks for hanging.
Nice to
Always
see
good
you.
to see your
Stan,
smiling
You,
face.
Kevin.
Stan, we got to vote.
Yeah, we got to vote. All in favor of going into closed session, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Is it a roll call?
We're in. Thanks, chief.
Thank you, chief.
Good to see you.
Good.